Gregg Fritz of the women's golf team. Gregg Fritz. Gregg, I'm going to try to find out why you can't hear me on your headphones. I'm not sure why exactly. Oh, you good? All right, there you go. Most experienced. We got the headset on, though.
All right.
We're good. Now, I hate to bring it up because I know it was told to me in confidence, but you did tell me over there before we went on the air that you thought I did a great job.
I did, and I always say that.
And you do, but I recall you also saying that that over the course of your career you've learned that sometimes you've got to tell people what they want to hear. People like your sports information director and make them feel special.
Well, working at a country club for 28 years, that might be true, Sean.
Hey, you don't have to lie to me, Gregg. You don't have to lie to me. We're friends. You have done this a bunch of times.
Fifth time, yes.
And I saw you. You were over there. You weren't just coaching athletes. You were also coaching young Afram over there before we went on here about what he needed to expect whenever he got up in the hot seat. What kind of advice did you give Afram?
I just told him that you would bail us out if we start to struggle.
That is a shocking amount of trust that you've put into me, and I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest with you. I think you're discounting yourself whenever you've come up here. You've always been a fantastic guest. We've always had a great time talking to you about the women's golf program. Speaking of your program, this is really the first time since you've been here that you've had a real major change in the composition of your lineup.
Yes, I have 3 returning players and 3 new players. So there is quite a change. Half of my squad is new. We practiced last night for the first time, so I'm learning what they can do.
You've talked a lot in our previous sessions about how important having some of those veteran voices on your team was. Players that had been around the block, that had played in a number of tournaments, and how they assisted you. Now that some of that is gone, what sort of change have you seen, or have you seen any athletes that are taking up that mantle?
I have already, and with one practice under her belt. Last night, my one senior, she was right there, and I think she will take over and give advice to the new players. In fact, we talked a little bit walking up the 9th hole last night, so I think I will have senior leadership.
Do you think that that's, I don't want to say more important, but how important is it to have those players that are on the course that are their peers, their age group, their teammates, when they're willing to maybe provide motivation, maybe provide some advice or, maybe not chastisement, but being willing to tell somebody, hey, you're doing this, you need to be doing it this way.
Right, and one thing nice that happened last night, we had some rain. So we have 6 players on our team. Clarion Oaks was very nice. Mrs. Davis out there was nice enough to let us play all 6 together. So right away, my team got some bonding. Everybody got to talk to each other during the round of golf, talk about what's upcoming, and I thought it was a great experience last night. And thank you so much to Clarion Oaks for letting us do that.
You've talked a lot about, in your time here, how the weather has just affected your team's ability, not just to compete, but to practice even. Yeah. How you're not getting on the course to go out and get full rounds in. That's a challenge up here in the Northeast, getting those sorts of practice sessions.
We had a tough spring 2 years ago where we couldn't even get on the golf course. I think we practiced once. And the spring is a tougher season than fall, and that's basically why the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference has our championship season in the fall, even though golf NCAAs are in the spring. There just isn't the weather in April to be able to get the PSAC Conference championships in. It just isn't there. The weather is too unpredictable.
And that affects the preparation too, right? I mean, you're seeing, we talked about we've talked about how important it is for players to get rounds in over the course of the summer, continue to work on their game. When you're going from fall to spring, it's got to be even worse than that because nobody can really get out to play.
No, and fortunately enough, we now have a facility. Eventually, we're going to be using Tippin. We have nets in Harvey Hall where our players have the opportunity to at least get out and swing the golf club and strike a golf ball in the wintertime, which was a fantastic addition.
You've talked in the past that when you've had your veteran teams, your veteran players, that it was less about working on mechanics maybe and more about thinking their way through the game. Right. Now that you've got a team that's got some newer players, is it a little more back to basics and nuts and bolts?
Well, I think there's a little bit more back to basics, but I think if anybody is a golfer out in the room, they all know that getting out of trouble is the most. Every golfer is going to get in trouble, even Tiger Woods or whoever's playing on tour. If you need to save strokes when you get in trouble, and I think that's something that I can coach every year and really work on heavily. And in the NCAA, I'm allowed to be out there in the golf course coaching them, so I help them with trouble shots because you need to waste one shot, not two or three.
Well, it's funny, too. You mentioned that you say Tiger Woods in trouble, and sometimes he's in trouble when he's got the golf club in his hand.
Right.
And other times he's in trouble when his wife has the golf club in her hand. So
I won't comment on that, Sean.
No, that was many years ago. We don't need to go any further than that. So. But you do have some new players.
I do have some new players.
And you've got the opportunity now for to work with them from the very beginning as college golfers and really mold them. Again, very different situation than you were in 2 years ago. What's that opportunity like?
Well, I think I was going to have them play golf again tomorrow night, but we're going to go to the range tomorrow night. We're going to do a range session with instruction, and hopefully I can see their golf swings more repeated than I saw on the golf course last night, and see where we need to go from there.
You start off with, I don't know if it's a difficult schedule, but you've got quite the start here. You've got 4 straight days in Erie starting next weekend, and that's a grind.
That's a grind. Four straight 18-hole rounds is a grind. We're gonna, and again, I just got them last night, and we compete already next Friday, a week from Friday, and we're going to be 4 straight days in Erie. And this being my 3rd year, it's a little easier. My first year, 4 straight days, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I still have the 3 veterans coming back, and I think they will help. So,
let's talk a little bit about the courses that you're going to play. You've got, and you'll have to forgive me because I always flip the two. You've got Lake Shore Country Club, and you've got Lakeview Country Club up in Erie. So, what kind of challenges do those courses present?
Lakeview and Lake Shore, both of them are very difficult golf courses. Lake Shore has some carries, some challenging carries over ravines or whatever. Lakeview is a little bit more straightforward. Lakeview probably plays a little longer than Lake Shore, so we'll be right under fire right away next weekend.
You had your 2nd annual fundraiser golf outing this past summer, also at Clarion Oaks. And without getting into too many of the details of it, this is something that you've cultivated, that you've tried to grow. You did grow it from year 1 to year 2. These are events that you used to put on when you were in Brookville at Pinecrest.
That's
right.
But
what are those challenges like for a college coach, knowing that these events are so important, trying to support your program?
Yeah, and the reason we do it is to fund our spring trip over spring break. And it's worked out very well. When I got the job, the first year, I wasn't prepared for a spring break, and I'm in my office. I'm the only spring sport that's not going somewhere over spring break. That had to change. I had to do something about that, and this tournament has helped fund that. Now, as far as running it, I was on one side of the counter. The organizers, like a hospital event or a YMCA event, they did all the legwork. Well, I'm on that side of the counter now too, so it is a little bit of change. But yes, I ran events for 34 years in the golf business, so yes.
You talked about that spring trip. Now, as I recall last year, even though you are the golf coach, I've heard tell that somebody else on that trip might have outplayed you. Somebody that helped you drive vans.
Well, he's a very good van driver.
Okay.
And I will, and he is now. I don't know if anybody knows. I'm sure Wendy does, but he is now the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference Women's Golf Liaison.
Wow.
So he is an important cog in the women's golf wheel in the PSAC.
Were you afraid that you might lose some sway with your athletes because of them being in such close proximity to an accomplished golfer?
No, it was great. Actually, it was really great.
We're talking about DJ Bevavino.
We're talking about DJ Bevavino, our Associate Athletic Director. Yeah.
In attendance this evening.
Yeah. What we did is DJ and I played last year. Also, I had 6 players. We took turns playing with 2 different players each round of golf, and I thought it was fantastic. And I wouldn't want to be quoted on this, but my players love DJ.
Oh, well, I mean, who wouldn't? I think his face is getting red over there. Oh, that's too bad. Gregg, is there anything else you'd like to say to our fans before we sign off
I'm
for the
excited
night?
to get started with the season. Excited to see how the 3 new players are going to perform out there. And I'm still learning, so I really can't say a lot about that now. But I think we're going to have a good, solid year. And I will say one thing about my team and the 3 returning players: they never quit trying out in the golf course.
That's
all a coach can ask.
Fantastic. Gregg Fritz, everybody. Thank you, Gregg.